So today we're going to talk about areas and color schemes. This kind of originated from Frisbee doing some condo plans, and then has evolved into some more like how we can use this to further diagram things within the Revit environment. Um, okay, so pretty much today we're going to talk about rooms and areas and how rooms are different than areas, how we create an area plan, setting up and using color schemes, and then scheduling and analyzing that area data. So to really get started, a room is a automatically detected boundary that we can then define with physical boundaries, with walls. We have room separator lines, which help us split apart like open floor plans to where you have like a kitchen and a living room, that there's no real wall that's separating you, but it allows you to be able to separate those things. They're used for space planning. We can tag them, and then we can also schedule them. The difference between a room and an area is manually defined. So we can add these things called area boundaries, which can then be a non-physical boundary that then defines an area. So these are typically things that we think of as gross or rentable square footage, um, but they can be a lot more exact. We can get to like, hey, in a room, it's going to the edge of the finish, so our gyp board. But in terms of condo law and BOMA, sometimes we own the gyp that is associated with that wall, so we need to back that line, that boundary up, and so that's where areas come into play. And so when we go from make an area plan, which is separate from an actual floor plan, there's on the architectural tab, there is a drop down under area, where we can then create an area plan. And that allows us to define what category of an area plan we're wanting to make. And that's really important that we define whether it's we want to do a condo net area or a gross net area. And these are important to define now because it's how Revit looks and differentiates between those boundaries. So if we want to have different area boundaries, we need to have different area plan categories to then be able to not have overlap. So that way we tag an area in one plan, it's not also seeing it in another plan. And we'll get to that of how we want to do that. And so a big part of how area plans work is we can create a color scheme to it. And so with that color scheme, we can have it in the foreground or in the background. And sometimes it's beneficial to just show it as a colored diagram, or sometimes we want to see kind of the furniture within that space. And that kind of really allows us to better see like the diagram of here's the unit plan, that here's the square footage within that. So there are ways that we can kind of adjust how that color scheme is presented, whether it be in the foreground or the background. And so a basic idea of an area plan is just showing basic areas. So this was a parcel plan that we took from a job that is in Daphne, and we had 3 parcels. We created the area boundary for those parcels and then placed 3 areas. We were able to not have any physical boundary. All we were using was really like lines from the topo that helped us do that. But then we can take that same diagram and then change that information, and create a new area plan for zoning, and then start to like cut the lot up into where the ponds are, here's where we know natural streams are occurring from floodplains, and then beginning to say here's where the single family will be, here's where the high density will be, and here's where the commercial will be. And so this is all within the Revit environment. This is trying to alleviate the need to do stuff in Bluebeam, because this is valuable data that we can harvest for future project work of how much was this area for high density, how much is single family. Oh, we need to move this and then reallocate for this. It's a way to keep all this information within the Revit environment. And so really it's about simplifying the complex ideas through visuals. And we can do that through like clarity. We're creating engagement because they're able to understand a diagram a lot simpler, uh, a simpler diagram. So that way it's a color scheme. It's just we're doing all the legwork of assigning the color to or really assigning the area to the space, and then Revit will automatically detect the color for you. So really we can get into how we can work through feasibility studies through Revit, and then that can help us through operations once we are really moving through the project. And so areas have a built-in parameters, but we can also add parameters to this. And we kind of talked about the idea of what parameters are, but certain ones are read-only. So we can assign levels, or we can create an area plan on a level that is then assigned to that level. So then we can create an area boundary that's then going to define the area. It'll tell us the perimeter of that area, but these are things that we can't physically change in the parameter box, but we can change them in the model. And so that's how you would have changed these built-in read-only parameters. But then we can assign numbers, names, we can add comments to this, and we can also add information to these areas that are like our own personal things. So if you wanted to add cost data to that, we could add a cost parameter to that and say this much acreage costs this much money. And then because of that, we can schedule this information out and say, here are the names of the values, and then here's the associations with square footages or named values or departments. The list goes on that we can really elongate how the parameter list that we have to be able to associate with different areas. And so when we talk about differentiating the area schemes, one of the things that we need to make sure that we are doing is we're creating a type that doesn't associate with another type. So like if we're doing parcels when we're doing zoning, we want to make sure that they're separate, because otherwise the parcel lines can then show up in the zone lines, and then maybe we want those or maybe we don't want those. So there's just a way to think about how Revit gives you the built-in gross and rentable, which are the basic understandings of buildings, but we can then leverage that same idea into diagrams. And if you have a new diagram, you're going to kind of need to make a new type. So it's not terrible to make a new type. It's just we just need to know that when we make it, so that we don't have these overlapping lines or overlapping areas, which then become confusing. And so this is the last slide, but the ability to create a legend off of this area is really where the leverage comes in. So this was the Everly condo plans, and when Frisbee initially did this, it was merely about usage and who the public common space, and then the ability to show private space versus common space, and the relationship of those square footages. I was able to easily just change that to say I want to be able to change the area legend to show me a range of square footage, and then I can start inputting that square footage range. And so this is really powerful in the ability to show a developer, hey, this is where your ranges are. If you have this many, and graphically you're showing the relationship of two different colors, but all of this is generated through Revit. So all we're doing is placing an area within an area plan, and then creating a color fill legend that then goes on the area plan, which then helps us create the legend that helps us for the diagram. So does anyone have any questions? This is a pretty simple area color scheme Meta Monday, but these are really powerful in our ability to convey to the client how we can propel the project forward, but with a clear understanding of the diagram. You're muted, Keaton.
Like naturally mute us. Can this tool can be used for other drawings as well, not just area diagrams, right? Like you could use that area to use like our 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom diagrams for our T sheets, right? Like unit allocation, like where they go as far as in the building. As
You could.
it's
That is
not
something
just,
we should discuss, just in terms of the how you want to do that. So because we use rooms to do a lot of the tagging, or we were doing that. And then we also tag our links. So there's a way that it just depends on how you want and how exact you want to be.
I
Carleone.
think the differentiator here is rooms can be used to embed data in it. So it can be like a room name, a room number. You can add like a color to it. And that's kind of the parameters set for a room are normally like by walls or by like an area define, sorry, a room defining boundary line, whereas areas are completely decoupled from like walls or any compound element like a roof or floor, right? It's literally just like a rectangle that you're drawing that captures an area. So it's
Okay.
not like a defined element from a model element. It's like and that's that way you can have several different types of area plans. So you can have ones that are for gross area, and you can have ones that are for, you know, whatever BOMA standard you're aiming to hit. So
And you're saying that's the difference is like these areas, I can draw them in the middle of the wall versus the outside of the wall versus through the middle of the room, whereas the room tag is actually just gonna, if I move the wall 6 inches, it's gonna read that wall moving to where it moved
that's
because
correct.
it's
Yeah.
using the wall as a boundary.
Yep.
Okay.
So when I'm drawing an area plan, there's no 3D component that's actually getting drawn. It's functioning kind of like a detail line.
Yes, it is as the best way to describe it is a non-spatial analysis tool. So you're not using
Mhm.
anything that defines a space as the tool. So it's very like it you can tie it to walls, like the whole idea of constraints and locking it to exterior walls. But then if you don't do that and a wall moves, then your areas are not updating. So
Yeah.
these
An
are
area also has like a volume one. So like it has a height control to it. So you kind of think of it like as a spatial component, whereas an area, to your point, is kind of like just like a detail line that you can create something that sits inside it that captures your areas.
Yeah.
Wait,
And
which one has a volume component? You said the room tag type has a volume component to it?
It does, so that if you
Okay.
wanted to do colored sections, for example, you can grab that room and apply the same color scheme to it, and then you can adjust where that room starts so that it's not going through your ceiling.
So essentially, like if we had made this image that's on Kurt's screen right now out of room tags and done it and colored it,
Yep.
I could show this same section in theory, or this same diagram in section.
Yes. Yep.
Why'd y'all not say that sooner? I could have, would
we
have
can
made
also
this,
show it in
this would have
3D.
been so much more helpful for the lawyer.
Yeah. Well, if you want me to show you how to do it, I can show you how to do it. Sorry, mate.
No, I'm just having a fun time.
But yeah, let us know if you have any questions about areas and color schemes. So see y'all at 10.
Cool. Thanks, Kurt.
Yep,
That's
see
it.
y'all.
Thanks, Kurt. Bye.
Thanks for